The Rams and the New Orleans Saints held joint practice out in Carson, California. How did the Rams offense look? How did the Rams defense look? We'll talk about all that next on this episode here on the Rams Up Podcast Network. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rams Up Podcast Network. I'm Ian. If you're on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell on, turn it on. And if you are on the audio only or podcast only side of things, share this audio and podcast with all your friends. Any of those options helps our content be able to be seen more likely with other Rams fans and all that. I very much appreciate it. But man, an unexpected joint practice with the New Orleans Saints happened out there in Carson, California, not too far away from where a lot of SoCal sports action goes down, as the Los Angeles Chargers canceled the previously scheduled joint practice between Rams and Chargers because Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers leadership thought, we are way too beat up. We are not going to chance it after they had the big Rashawn Slater injury and some other guys that have been, dealing with injuries. And they were like, we're not going to do it, Sean and Rams. And McVay's like, hey, I understand it. And luckily, because the New Orleans Saints have their training camp out here in Southern California as they're trying to stay away and beat the heat out there in New Orleans as they have construction and other stuff going down in their home city. They've been out here the last couple of years, and Sean McVay, Kellen Moore got together and said, hey, how about we have a joint practice together? And they figured it out, and they ended up in Carson at some practice fields, and that is where they met up. So, hey, shout out to the Saints leadership, Kellen Moore, their head coach, everyone else involved with that for accepting this invitation from the Rams to have a joint practice to get some good work in. And it's pretty cool that they got it done, as I thought, man, only one joint practice against the Cowboys? That's pretty unfortunate on the Rams side of things. But hey, they met up, they got some stuff done, and we'll definitely talk about all of the gritty and the good, bad, and stuff in between from how the joint practice went. But I think it's important we talk about some injury updates with this Rams roster. So luckily, Nate Landman, the newly signed inside linebacker, who is the Mike linebacker right now, calling plays on defense. He has the green dot on the back of his helmet as he's getting the defensive play calls from Chris Shula. He was back in action. Great news. Thumbs up on that. You had Cameron Curl. Remember, he had the ankle injury where he was hobbling around. He maybe got stepped on and rolled it. He was back. Number 3, Cameron Curl was back out there. Thumbs up for that. Then you had Emmanuel Forbes Jr., who had the hamstring, as a lot of Rams fans caught that on video as well, along with Cameron Curl's injury. He was back out there. That was a good sign. And then you have rookie tight end Terrence Ferguson. He did not participate in joint practice, but then within the last couple of days, he's been running routes on air, catching some passes. So he's making good progress. And everyone else, for the most part, at least what has been noticed by reporters, team members of the media, et cetera, Rams are looking pretty dang healthy outside of the usual suspects, I should say, that are dealing with something. Alaric Jackson, still on the blood clot timeline. Really no update with him. Hope things go well. I fully expect him to come back middle of the season. Maybe he goes on PUP, physically unable to perform list. Maybe he goes on injury reserve. There's a lot of different ways that can go. But no update on him. But we do have an update on quarterback Matthew Stafford. As here, we pull this up. Shout out to both Adam Grossbard and Sarah Barshop for this tweet post from X Twitter. Asked by Sarah Barshop if Matthew Stafford's back issue at this point is more functional or pain tolerance. McVay said, I think probably a little bit of both. We're trying to get our hands around this as well. And this is in response to Coach McVay saying, hey, Stafford's going to have another Saturday morning workout before the preseason game, just like he did before the preseason game of Cowboys and Rams this past weekend. And gosh dang it, Rams Nation. You know, I knew way back when there was something up, and me and Mark talked about it a ton. That when he was first getting held out, first being held out of practice, I was like, okay, what is going on here? Because these are usually things that you don't want to hear from your coach, right? I mean, it's just quarterback's not practicing, yada yada yada. So a lot of the fan base, including Mark, was like, "Hey, everything's cool. He'll come back." But I was like, "I don't know." And now here we are, many weeks later, and he's having issues. McVay alluded to in his post, joint practice press conference that his back didn't respond well after that throwing session last weekend before the Cowboy preseason game. And he didn't say that a couple days ago, but I had my guesses, I had my thoughts. So whatever that aggravated disc in the spine, maybe it's herniated, right? Popping out, whatever the issue is. After his throwing session on Saturday, it did not feel good the next couple days, which is why the original plan for him to practice with the team hasn't happened at all this week and probably won't happen again until next week. Fingers crossed on that. So it's not just a pain thing, Rams Nation, where it's like, can Stafford just deal with the pain? I mean, there is some functional issues with the back. We've talked about it, right? When you throw a football, you're rotating that spine, you're rotating your hips. It's all interconnected with your throwing motion. And Stafford has a beautiful throwing motion. He uses his body well, he uses his hips well to get torque and energy. Obviously, he has a great arm, sidearm, any arm slot, right? Throwing the ball high with his arm, throwing it sideways, underhand almost. I mean, he can do whatever, but every clean throw, any power throw, any super accurate throw down the field, 20 plus yards. I mean, that back twists and turns and that not being functional fully right now. Again, it's not just a pain issue. There's functional problems, Sean admitted today. Not good. Not good at all. So fingers crossed that his throwing session, second one of this preseason, goes well. And hopefully he'll wake up Monday and Tuesday in the most minimal pain possible. And with the functionality of the disc spine isn't continuing to be consistently messed up or doesn't get any worse, or of course will be better than what it was this past week and previous weeks. But not good. Not good. As again, the Rams have a deep history of playing off serious health issues with players. They did it with Matthew Stafford in 2022 when he didn't practice for felt like weeks, months then with an elbow issue. Said it was no issue, no issue, no issue. And he played week one, played the whole season until he had a back spinal cord contusion, speaking of back issues with him. And then later Stafford talked about, oh yeah, my elbow was not good. Shot this, shot here for that, and it was in a bad place. And of course, I get the tactical advantage with the Rams not releasing that info. But that Gurley, Terrell Lewis, Ernest Jones, gosh, we can go down the freaking list here. We've done it a bunch already. That's just a small handful of guys where they've had health issues, really wasn't talked about. And again, Brandon Cooks, other guys pop into my head here where they kind of downplayed the severity of things with people. Cooper Kupp, hamstring. We can go on and on. I'll stop there, but that is where my pessimism comes in, where it's like, this is more serious than this team will ever admit until the 2025 campaign is over. So, hey, fingers crossed everything will go well on Saturday for Stafford. Hopefully he will be feeling okay with both pain and physical functionality with that disc spine, or his throwing is not making it worse. And we'll see what happens. I'm fully expecting Jimmy Garoppolo to start week one and maybe even play the whole month of September. I'm bracing for it. I'm slowly accepting it. And so be it. We'll see what goes down when we hit that road. But I'm bracing myself for that, unfortunately. But whatever has to be done for Matthew Stafford to feel as good as humanly possible, Let's not throw him out there against a good Houston Texans defense with that back still not feeling good. That would be bad for the long-term hopes of the season. So we shall see. So those are the injury updates, Rams Nation, on the team. Everything seems pretty good other than Alec and Matthew Stafford right now. But we hope for the best with all the guys and any future injuries that may pop up. We hope everyone heals fast as well. But let's get into the joint practices, right? And again, it's important to remember that the Rams value these joint practices significantly more than a preseason game. Why is that? Because these joint practices are quote unquote controlled settings, controlled practices where, hey, we're not tackling to the ground, right? It's not a game. You have to tackle them to the ground. No, it's not. It's a practice. But, you can still thump shoulder pads pretty hard. You can still pop, as a defensive player, offensive player, to get used to, a similar type of game action and physicality. And you're playing another team with their rules on how they play defense and or offense, their scheme. There's certain good players or, backup players, et cetera, et cetera. And this is where Rams starters get a majority of their work because, Sean McVay's philosophy, no guys are going to be in the preseason playing, risking injury, getting tackled to the ground, hip drop tackle, bad roll here, a pile up here, ankles, knees, all that stuff, hand getting hit on helmet, quarterback wise. So joint practices are a serious deal for the Rams. And Sean McVay says that every preseason that these joint practices carry significant weight leading into week 1 and beyond of the regular season. So with that said, the Rams offense wasn't good today against the Saints defense. And that's disappointing because the Cowboys joint practice, the Rams offense was on fire. Garoppolo was fantastic. Passing game was fantastic. Run game was fantastic. But this time around against the Saints defense, who I think they have been underrated for years. Everyone thinks they're just some crappy team. Their defense isn't. I mean, let's be honest about it. Last year's matchup against the New Orleans Saints out there later in the season, where we had a tough, gritty battle against them out there in New Orleans. I mean, if Jared Verse doesn't strip sack Derek Carr, he's throwing a game-winning touchdown to the tight end and we lose that game. The film doesn't lie. We've covered it doing film breakdowns. Jared Verse saved that game, maybe even saved the season because they got that win against the Saints, mattered in the conference standings, mattered in the playoff standings, and the Saints would have beat us abso-freaking-lutely if Jared Verse didn't strip sack Derek Carr in that game. So that defense, my point is good. They held a Rams offense that was pretty healthy at that point to minimal points, and they did a hell of a job. So this Saints defense did a dang good job against this Rams offense, against the starters. Garoppolo had a bad day. The whole offense, the receivers, you had drops from Devontae Adams. You had drops from Puka Nacua. You had inconsistent and bad pass protection majority of the practice, as well as David Quisenberry was starting at left tackle. There was no sign of DJ Humphries at all at this joint practice. He was not suited up getting reps at all. Hopefully, fingers crossed that he is doing okay health-wise. We'll maybe find out tomorrow and maybe Saturday if Sean gets asked that question. Hopefully it is asked that DJ Humphries is okay. So not just Quisenberry, but the whole O-line as a group, starters, just did not block well majority of that practice. And dang it, that's disappointing to hear. Yes, there were the reports. And again, shout out to Adam, shout out to Brock, shout out to Stu, shout out to Cameron, all the Rams reporters who were out there getting visuals and, getting reports done for all of us to digest, read, video, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, all of them said, hey, at the end of practice, when it was a hurry up 2-minute drill, right? Hurry up offense, quick huddles, maybe no huddle, Garoppolo on the offense was so much better. But typical lineup, get a play call like middle of the game, the offense just wasn't good. Now, there were some good run plays from Kyron, some from Blake. And then Jarquez Hunter had some nice, really explosive runs with the second team offense. That's all handy dandy. But the point of joint practice is starters get a majority of the practice time, starters versus starters. So that's my main focus. And the starting offense just wasn't good. Again, Garoppolo was off. O-line didn't block well in the pass protection, made Garoppolo have to force throws, hurry up, got, quote unquote sacked, and then drops from Devontae, drops from Puka, just missed timing in the passing game as a whole. No explosive plays in the passing game. Just the complete opposite of what happened against the Cowboy starters in that first joint practice game. Very, very disappointing and not good, honestly. Because again, I think the Saints defense is underrated and good overall. They got fantastic players at every level. So against I think a good defense, the Rams offense wasn't good. And that's a big no-no. And they have some time to correct stuff. And I understand. You're not game planning, right? You're not running your full assortment of plays in the playbook offensively, where it's like, hey, we're going to attack this guy for this weakness, or we're going to try to attack that dude for that weakness, or hey, the way they run this coverage, this play works really well. All that stuff is not going on. And it is important to also note that, yes, former defensive coordinator for the Rams, Brandon Staley, is now the Saints defensive coordinator. So could it be that, hey, Brandon knows this offense, he knows what plays to call to defend it? I'm sure that has a hand in it, but at the end of the day, you don't want to see reports that the Rams offense just wasn't good overall in this joint practice starters. So hopefully all these things, they learn from it, they watch the tape, which they will, and they'll be able to improve upon. But, drops, got to catch the football, everyone. And hopefully O-line will perform better, and hopefully DJ Humphries is all right, because hearing that he was out for, again, we don't know yet, but he didn't get any practice time at all today. Fingers crossed that's nothing serious, and maybe he's just getting some veteran rest day. But in these joint practices, you want your starters to get the reps. So we shall see what's up with him. But disappointing to read and hear and see reports that the Rams starting offense, wasn't good against the Saints starting defense. Very disappointing to hear that. Now, how about the defense? What were the Rams defense doing during this joint practice? Well, the complete opposite of what the Rams are doing. They had another stout performance in a joint practice. Now, was it perfect like it was against the Cowboys? No. Did Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave and others maybe have some big plays every now and then? Yeah, they did. And they're a pretty good duo at wide receiver, in my opinion. Shaheed's one of the best down the field threats, deep threats. Chris Olave, I think, is an all-around fantastic young receiver. And that's fine, right? You're running a lot of plays. It's not game-like where it's like 1, 2, 3, force a punt. Very, very different. But overall, from all reports, from not only Rams reporters, but from Saints reporters, that Rams front seven, D-line, inside linebackers, outside linebackers, all were really, really good again. You heard great things from the edge defenders. Byron Young, Jared Verse, getting constant pressure on, whether it was Tyler Shuck, the rookie, whether it was Spencer Rattler, they were getting home a ton. You heard great things from Puna Ford, stuffing the run yet again and just clogging that middle of the defense as a nose tackle. Fantastic. That's what you want to hear. And then Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk had tons of, good playmaking. And then the linebackers, yet another day of Nate Landman punching out a ball carrier and causing them to fumble, or punching the football, I should say, as he punched out Alvin Kamara's handoff when he was running the rock and caused him to fumble. And, a lot of Saints reporters like, man, Alvin never fumbles. He's going to be mad that he got on that one. And I mean, what a unique, quote unquote, superpower Nate Landman has, our new inside linebacker, the Mike signal caller. I mean, dude has a special skill set to be able to accurately punch that football out. It just, wow. I mean, what a difference that's going to make if he's able to do that consistently during regular season games and meaningful games, hopeful playoff games if we get there. I mean, dang. Everything up until this point about Nate Landman has been A+. And I'm happy that he's here. And what an underrated signing. And he had a great practice outside of that fumble punch out. You saw Omar Spates having some really big, not tackles, but really big collisions in the hole, stopping a runner. Sean Dolak, the University of Buffalo rookie, was getting rotated in with the first team. Chris Pupal Jr. was also laying the boom at inside linebacker. So the whole front seven as a whole was just freaking good, man, from all reports. And that is fantastic to hear. Then, yes, Emmanuel Forbes Jr. got rotated in with the secondary. Yes, Akello and everyone else was out there. And to all reports, Akello Witherspoon was getting tested a ton by the Saints offense, and he was just doing one hell of a job breaking up passes, playing good lockdown coverage. That's fantastic to hear. And then, of course, Cameron Curl back in the lineup. Emmanuel Forbes again back getting reps with the first team. And then D. Will, Quentin Lake, Jalen McCullough, Cameron Kitchens all had their moments. So, I mean, guys, this is what you want to hear from a joint practice, that the Rams defense was yet again stout against an opposing, other team's offense. And I really, really think this Rams team, everyone, is going to be a defensive-led team yet again for a third year in a row. Rewind to 2023, right? The year of the quote-unquote rebuild or the retooling or the reloading, whatever word the Rams leadership like to say, which they're true, they were right. It was just a reload and a retool on the fly. That Rams team was defensive led. There were so many games where the offense was off kilter for one reason or another: injury, O-line issues, chemistry with pass catchers, weird games of play calling from Sean McVay where I was like, man, that was a bad day of play calling right there from him. And the defense was the constant that was keeping things afloat. Think of how many low-scoring games there were from that Rams defense in 2023. And then, okay, let's fast forward to the last season, 2024. Same thing. Rams offense was discombobulated multiple times for injuries, suspensions, chemistry, play calling issues from Sean. And then what was constant? A young Rams defense holding it down as much as humanly possible. And I think yet again, we are going to be in that same situation. Hopefully it's not because of injury. Hopefully it's not because of chemistry issues or even the days where it's inevitable where Sean's going to have a bad play calling day during a regular season game. But I just have a feeling, because of the inconsistencies from this joint practice, because Matthew Stafford hasn't taken a snap in pads yet with this offense, because Alaric Jackson's been out at left tackle, because the chemistry and the drop-off between a Stafford to Jimmy Garoppolo is significant. Let's keep it real. I mean, there is a serious chance that this offense starts pretty damn slow yet again for one reason or another. And this young Rams defense is going to have to step up for a third year in a row and hold it down, keep this team afloat from falling off a cliff like they have in years past, and lead the charge all the way to a hopeful Super Bowl victory. And hey, when you got guys like this, Jared Verse, when you got guys like Byron Young, Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, you heard, again, great things about Nate Landman, Omar Spates, Dolak, Chris Pupal Jr., Curl, Kitchens, Lake, the whole defensive secondary, and hear how they've been performing in these joint practices. I mean, it just feels that way, right, Rams Nation? So fingers crossed that the offense won't be sputtering out of the gate like they have 2 years in a row now, and things are trending in a possible third year in a row. We got to hope this Rams defense is legit. And based on 2 joint practices, the only 2 where starters are going to have any meaningful snaps, practice playing time in this preseason before week 1, things are looking that way. And they're looking like a top 10 defense based on everything we've been digesting the past 2-3 weeks. And that is a great sign. So lead the charge, young Verse. Lead the charge, young Turner, and everyone else on defense. We're going to need you to kick ass and keep us afloat and win us games early on if this offense is a little wacky out of the gate for one reason or another. But again, great to hear the Rams defense was stout against the New Orleans Saints in this joint practice. What are some other big news coming up with preseason action with the Rams and the Chargers facing off on Saturday afternoon out here in the Battle of LA game, I guess you could call it, as some people like to call it. Big news, though, is that Chargers plan to play starters versus the Rams in this second preseason game, which is seems to be a trend this season as McVay was one of the pioneers, I guess, quote unquote, where starters were being held out of preseason, where for all of NFL eternity up until 2017, it feels like 2018, that every starter played a significant amount in the preseason, right? A little bit in week 1, a little bit more in week 2, a little bit more in week 3, and then when there was a preseason week 4, then a majority of that preseason week 4 game leading up into the regular season. But since McVay showed that, hey, I'm resting my guys, we can still have successful seasons, go to Super Bowls, have win playoff games, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of teams copy that. But this season, a lot of starters are starting to play in the preseason, which I don't mind. It's fun to watch. But the Rams, that's not how they do business. Sean will never risk injury. That's just the philosophy. But Chargers with Harbaugh and led by Justin Herbert, as apparently Justin Herbert said, hey, Coach Harbaugh, I want to play in this preseason game. I need to feel some live action. I need to feel some live rush. I just need that game action. So him and a lot of other starters, I think other than Khalil Mack and Derwin James, they're all going to get some action against the Rams in this preseason game. As you see this tweet here on X Twitter, the Chargers, Justin Herbert will start Sunday versus the Rams in this week 2 preseason game, making his first ever preseason appearance in his 5-year career as an NFL quarterback. So that just goes to show you it's been a shift lately. I think a lot of teams have been starting out slow on offense or defense, and teams haven't been hot. Kind of sounds like the Rams, doesn't it? Haven't been starting out hot the last couple of years. But again, multiple reasons for that other than just not playing guys in preseason. But we're going to get some Justin Herbert action against our second unit of defensive players, which should be very, very fun and interesting to see, right? We're not going to get some backup versus backup action. We're going to see if the Rams defensive secondary members, the Rams second unit of linebackers and pass rushers, D-line, are they legit or not? Because if they can make plays and look good and have some nice stops against Herbert, who is a top 10 quarterback objectively, you could say, and, Omari and Hampton, who I had a first round grade on the running back, maybe Ladd McConkey, you see Keenan Allen, you see there, high draft pick, Trey Harris from Ole Miss, who I like, that receiver, and others. I mean, we're going to see some really, really great action in that early parts of the preseason game where Herbert and the starters on the offense and defense will be out there against our backups. And we're going to find out if our backups can play some legit football. They look good in week 1 of preseason against the Cowboys backups, but we're really going to find out if they can play some NFL football against the Chargers starters. So that's pretty exciting. And I'm looking forward to that action when Saturday comes around very, very soon. But other than that, Rams Nation, joint practice today with the Saints out there in Carson, California, and the greater LA County area. Defense was great. Another stout performance, and offense was not good. But again, they have time to correct it. Still weeks away from week 1 against Houston Texans, and hopefully things get right on offense with the starters as they need it. Texans are good. Tough schedule in the early parts of the year and the whole season. It's going to be a wild ride, and I think we'll end up being okay. But hey, that's why you have these joint practices. You got to see what the starters are made of against another team. And we got 2 and our only 2 samples of that, Cowboys and now Saints. Again, shout out to the Saints for, being willing to have this on the fly joint practice, days notice. But really important. And shout out again to Adam. Shout out to Brock. Shout out to Cameron. Shout out to Stu, all these Rams reporters from, Sports Illustrated, Daily News, Los Angeles, if my memory serves me correctly, the Rams.com, of course, and even the Rams Wire for all their updates on how this joint practice went. And shout out to all the guys who got video, Saints reporters, Rams guys as well, as that was fun to read and just kind of digest some football, as I am so ready for week one Rams Nation. But let me know in the comments section, what are your thoughts on how this joint practice went? Are you worried about how Garoppolo and the passing attack was just off for multiple reasons on offense? The O-line wasn't good. Run game was better. And then how do you feel about the defense just, lighting up again in the front seven against the Saints offense? And your thoughts on this preseason game coming up, right? Chargers starters going to play a decent amount, apparently. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And again, if you're on YouTube here, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that notification bell on. And if you're on the audio only or podcast only side of things, share this podcast, share this audio with all your fellow Rams fans. Any of those options helps other Rams fans see our content, and I very much appreciate it. But we'll see you very soon for the post-game reaction after Rams Chargers week 2 of preseason. I'll see you there, and never forget, my Ramley, go Rams.